Good morning and welcome to Inspirational Vitamins, your word for your week. This week the word is kind. Last week we spoke about kindness and this week is kind. It's about 10:09. We are a little bit later than we normally kick off our word for the week this week. But we are going to get to that in a moment. We're going to talk a little bit about a word for the week in a moment. This morning, I'm so honored to be joined with my two teenage children, Daniel and Rihanna, and we'll get to why they're here in a moment. But as always, how was your week? Certainly, it has been a very busy and interested and week, to say the least. And I trust that in spite of what have happened in and around the country and around the world, that you're able to get some of the things that you have planned to do last week, get them done. We embark upon a new week this week, and I certainly have a word that I stated earlier that I will be sharing a little bit about at the bottom of our conversation. Now, this morning, it's a little bit different. And because I wanted to, I have my son and daughter here to kind of give their perspective as far as what's happening in America today. Certainly they are the future, they are the now, and they are the future, and will be certainly ones to make some changes with your voices, with your participation, and with your involvement as we go forward. So they're here with me this morning to kind of give their thoughts, and I thought it would be necessary for them to join me here this morning to talk a little bit about how they feel. As a parent, certainly you have to talk to your children about how to conduct themselves not only in the home but outside of the home. When they go down the street, how do they interact with the public, and most importantly, what we're dealing with now with police officers, especially as it relates to black and the black community. So I want to pivot for a moment here to my son Daniel, but before we speak, I would be remiss this morning if I don't mention that he has just been graduated from high school. Congratulations. And in a few weeks, as a matter of fact, he will be enter into boot camp to serve and protect this nation. And pray for him, that certainly protection as he goes into the armed services. So with that said, Daniel, I want to ask you, son, you're 17 years old, finished high school, you've seen what's happening in America today. What's your take? What do you feel about what's happening, and what's your perspective?
I feel like all the protests that are going on right now is a great thing that's happening. I think it's bringing a lot of awareness to the whole movement, to a lot of justification to what has happened to George Floyd and the whole case, everything that's going on. I'm just glad that everybody across the entire nation is able to unite under this one cause. And even people outside of America have been protesting in support of what's going on. However, you can't mention the protests without mentioning the riots and everything that's going on right now. I must say that, I'm not a big fan of all that's going on right now. I think that we, as African Americans and as citizens of America, can do better than trying to solve violence with more violence. So that's kind of my take on what's happening right now.
All right, very good. So you're saying that you don't support the rioting and the looting, but certainly you in agreement with the protests and for the cause for which it is.
Yeah.
All right, very good. All right, so Rihanna, you just finished freshman year in high school, moving into your sophomore year, and you certainly have seen what's happening. Not really up close per se, but certainly from a distance. And what's your take, sweetie?
I believe that God has brought us together as a nation to unite and to protest for the rights of the black community. I believe that with this, the government can notice our actions and they have already taken actions by allowing the 3 people involved in George Floyd's case to be convicted, the 4 people actually in George Floyd's case to be convicted, and giving other legal rights to Black communities in different states. I believe that protesting is just the beginning of what we can see for our community and Black rights.
Right. Thank you. Just one clarification there. The 4 officers involved have not been convicted of that, but they have been charged. So conviction will be due process and see how that plays out. But certainly thank you for your thoughts on that. This week have shown us as a country, as a nation, as a people, that in spite of what's happening, people are coming together. And in as much as the cause here is really about Black lives or Black community and police profile with Blacks and African Americans in this country, but it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. Whether there are elements of racism and inequality as far as those things are concerned, it's a whole summation of things that certainly have disenfranchised a lot of folks in this country, especially folks of color. And I think what we have seen recently is that there are people who share our grief and share the experience that we have had over the years. I believe that in spite of what we have seen happening in and around today, people recognize that without the voices of the people, we the people are the one that drive things and forces changes legislatively and in government and in institutions and subsequently get resolved. Back in the 1960s, when we go from Martin Luther King and several other activists and people who have fought for a lot of things that we didn't have access to. But we are seeing this happen in the 21st century on a different level. Certainly we get a lot of folks that are not African American that are joining the cause, recognizing that there need to be change in our structural system in America. And I believe that that's going to happen because there are more pressure and there are more unification on those front now. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, that this week, the word that I want to leave with you all is the word kind. It's a 4-letter word, but certainly it's significant. Last week we talked about kindness, but this week we're looking at kind, and from the adjective, if you would, it's ready or anxious to do good to others. Be friendly. That's just what kind is. And when you look on the noun, it's really a group of people or things having similar characteristics. And certainly we have seen that expression even throughout the last 2 weeks in particular. But this week I thought about what can we do as individuals? What can we do as a person to show kindness in spite of what we have been doing? And a lot of people have been doing things. And I thought about some examples of just impromptu. Don't have to plan it, you just do it. And here are 5 of them and there are several more, but here are 5 that I've listed here that we can think about this week. 1, while you're at the gas station, pay for someone else's gas. Number 2, while you're at the grocery store, put some groceries or pick up some groceries for your neighbor. Maybe you have never gone over there, or maybe you have talked to them and you don't know what their needs are. And it doesn't have to be the person right beside you. That's not what defines neighbors. Number 3, bring an extra mask to hand out to someone who may need it. Certainly we still have to be protecting ourselves in this pandemic that have not passed over yet. It's still here, and even though things have mitigated, but certainly it is still here, and we need to do the right thing and do the prudent thing so we stay safe in spite of what we're doing. Number 4, help an older person cross the street who may be standing at the intersection waiting for the traffic light to change, and as you know, sometimes as soon as the light changes, in less than 10 seconds it's gone back again to green. So maybe you want to extend that courtesy and help that older person to cross the street. And number 5, while you're at the drive-thru, maybe getting your coffee or maybe getting that McDonald's or whatever sandwiches that we're getting or food, pay for the person behind us. How about that? That's showing some kindness throughout this week. I believe that if you do that, you'll find that it is so fulfilling that you are able to do something that you didn't ask to do it. You do it spontaneously, you do it impromptu, and certainly you will feel that your week was not all wasted, even if you have a bad week at work. But the fact that you're able to do something kind to someone will certainly make a difference and make you feel that you have accomplished something this week. As always, share this video with your friends and with your loved ones, and join me next week for your word for your week. Until then, have a kind week.